The ballroom was drowning in gold light and whispered ambition. Chandeliers rained crystal fire across silk gowns and tailored suits, but all eyes were fixed on one man, the untouchable titan of the city, Ethan Blackwell, CEO of Blackwell International. He stood at the podium like a king, his tailored black suit absorbing the spotlight, his voice steady and commanding. Tonight was meant to be a victory, the launch of his billion-dollar merger, the crowning jewel of his empire. Cameras flashed, investors leaned forward, hungry for every word. And then he faltered. It was almost imperceptible at first. His hand trembled as he gripped the edge of the podium. His words fractured. A bead of sweat traced down his temple despite the cool air. Then his body gave way. Gasps erupted. Glass shattered as someone dropped a drink. Ethan Blackwell, cold, ruthless, invincible Ethan, collapsed in front of the world. Mr. Blackwell, voices cried out. Board members rushed forward. Doctors from the guest list knelt at his side, but nothing worked. His lips were pale, his chest barely rising. Heart failure, he's going into arrest, someone shouted. The crowd turned chaotic. Phones recording, whispers sharp as knives. The CEO is dying. Call an ambulance. God, this will destroy the merger. But no one could save him. Not the trained doctors, not the billionaires who would have sold their souls for his favor. And then, through the sea of diamonds and silk, she appeared. A girl. Thin, disheveled, out of place. Her oversized coat was frayed at the edges, her shoes worn down to threads. Her hair clung to her damp face, eyes wide but burning with determination. She was a ghost in their world of power and glitter, and no one even noticed her slip through the crowd until she was kneeling beside him. Her name was Maya Reyes, though no one knew it yet. To them, she was just a homeless girl who'd slipped past security. "Move," she whispered, her voice shaking but firm. The doctors glared at her. "Get this girl out of here." "I said move," she screamed, her voice cracking through the panic like thunder. For a moment, the ballroom froze. And in that silence, Maya pressed her trembling hands to Ethan's chest. His pulse was gone. His skin was ice. He was already slipping into the shadows. Her throat tightened. Memories of her younger brother, gasping in her arms on the streets, dying before help ever came, slammed into her. Not again. Not another life slipping away while she was powerless. Not this time, she whispered fiercely. Before anyone could stop her, she bit down hard on her wrist until blood welled up. Gasps of horror rippled around her. She pressed the wound to his lips. The ballroom erupted. "She's insane. Security, get her out." But no one touched her. Not when Ethan's chest suddenly jerked. A faint sound, ragged, broken, escaped his lips. A breath. The doctors froze, disbelief painted across their faces. Maya's blood smeared across his mouth, her arm trembling as she held on. Her voice broke as she pleaded into the silence. "Breathe. Please breathe. You don't get to leave. Not like this." And against all reason, against every medical explanation, Ethan Blackwell's heart began to beat again. The ballroom descended into stunned silence. The mighty CEO, brought back not by science, not by money, but by the blood of a girl who had nothing. Security finally tore Maya back, rough hands gripping her arms. She didn't fight. She was too weak, swaying on her feet as her vision blurred. Her last sight before darkness claimed her was Ethan's face, pale but alive, his eyes flickering open for just a second, meeting hers. And in that fleeting instant, something passed between them. A tether. A spark. Something dangerous, impossible, undeniable. Then the world tilted, and Maya collapsed. The first thing Maya felt was the softness beneath her. Sheets, silk, smooth as water against her skin. The air smelled faintly of cedar and expensive cologne, so sharp it almost burned her throat. Her eyes snapped open. This wasn't the street. This wasn't the shelter. The ceiling soared high above her, painted in muted gold. Curtains of heavy velvet draped across towering windows, holding back the glare of the city lights outside. And beside her bed, machines hummed softly, monitoring a life that wasn't hers. She bolted upright. Her head spun, and pain shot through her wrist, bandaged, still raw from where she had cut it. Memory rushed back like a tidal wave. The glittering ballroom, the man collapsing, her own blood pressed against his lips, the impossible moment when he'd breathed again. Ethan Blackwell, the CEO. And now she was in his house. Don't move too quickly. The voice was deep, quiet, edged with authority. She jerked her head toward the sound. He was there. Ethan Blackwell stood a few feet away, his towering frame outlined against the dim glow of a floor lamp. He was pale, his suit replaced with a loose black shirt, the top buttons undone, exposing the faint rise and fall of his chest, the chest she had forced back into rhythm with her blood. For a moment, neither spoke. His gaze was unreadable, sharp as a blade, and just as dangerous. Maya swallowed, her throat dry. Why am I here? You saved my life. His tone was simple, matter of fact, but beneath it lay a gravity that made the air heavier. I don't let debts go unpaid. Her hands clenched around the sheets. You should have let me go. I don't belong here. His eyes darkened, scanning her with a precision that felt like he was dissecting every layer of her. That's not your choice anymore. The words sank into her like chains. Maya forced herself to meet his gaze, though her voice shook. I didn't save you for this. I didn't want anything. Ethan stepped closer, the light catching the sharp lines of his face, the steel in his eyes. No one ever gives without wanting something. Not in my world. So tell me, Maya Reyes, what is it you want? Her name on his lips startled her. How did he? I want nothing, she stammered. I want to leave. But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. Her life outside these walls was nothing but hunger and cold pavements. Yet here, even if she hated the golden prison, she had tasted warmth. Safety. Ethan tilted his head slightly, studying her like a puzzle that refused to be solved. For a man whose empire thrived on fear and control, she was an anomaly. A girl who bled for him with no price attached. And that terrified him more than death itself. Silence stretched between them until Maya whispered, Why are you looking at me like that? His jaw tightened. He should have dismissed her, should have ordered security to throw her out. But when he closed his eyes, he still saw it, that moment on the ballroom floor. Her trembling hands, her blood staining his lips, the fire in her eyes as she demanded he live. You dragged me back from the edge, he murmured, almost to himself. Now I can't stop seeing you. The confession was low, dangerous. Her heart slammed in her chest, panic flaring. She tried to swing her legs off the bed, but dizziness knocked her back. Ethan moved before she could fall, his hands catching her arms. His touch was strong, unyielding, but not cruel. Careful, he said, his voice rougher now. Their faces were inches apart. His breath ghosted across her skin, sending a shiver down her spine. Maya pushed him away, her chest heaving. Don't look at me like that. I'm not. Not what? His voice cut through her protest. Not worthy? Not part of this world. Her silence was answer enough. Ethan straightened, retreating only a fraction, but his gaze never left her. You're wrong. From the moment you bled for me, you became part of my world. And I don't intend to let you walk out of it. Her heart sank. His words weren't gratitude. They were a claim. A vow. Maya turned her face away, blinking hard against the sting in her eyes. She had saved him to prevent another death on her conscience, not to chain herself to the most dangerous man in the city. But Ethan Blackwell wasn't a man you could save and leave behind. He was a storm.
And she had walked straight into its eye.
From somewhere deep in the mansion, a door slammed. Footsteps echoed, urgent, heavy. Then a voice broke through the tension. Mr. Blackwell, there's been a breach. Ethan's head snapped toward the door, his expression shifting from intensity to ice. He looked back at her once more, his voice low, resolute. Stay here. Don't move. Then he was gone, the door closing behind him. Maya sat frozen, the silence pressing in. Her bandaged wrist throbbed, her heart racing. But more terrifying than the breach outside was the truth settling in her bones. She hadn't just saved a man. She had awakened something in him. And she had no idea if it would destroy her. The silence of the mansion was deceptive. Beneath its polished marble and towering windows, tension hummed like a live wire. Maya paced the guest suite, her bare feet whispering against the carpet. The bandage on her wrist pulsed with every heartbeat, a reminder of the impossible choice she'd made, and the man who now bound her future. The door swung open. Ethan entered, tall and unshaken, though his shirt was half undone from the chaos he'd just faced. His security detail lingered outside, but he waved them away with a flick of his hand. Maya froze. His gaze landed on her, sharp and searching, as if she'd moved an inch closer to escape. "What breach?" she asked, her voice tight. "Nothing you need to worry about," he said. His tone was clipped, but his eyes lingered on her in a way that made her skin prickle. "My enemies test my defenses often. Tonight was no different."
Her stomach twisted.
Of course he had enemies. A man who ruled entire industries with iron precision couldn't exist without them. But the way he dismissed it, as though his life weren't dangling on the edge, rattled her. "You act like your life doesn't matter," she snapped, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "But you have people who depend on you." "You." He cut her off with a sharp laugh. "People depend on my power, not me. If I died that night, they'd have mourned the empire, not the man." The rawness beneath his arrogance shocked her. For a second, Maya saw not the cold CEO, but a man hollowed out by loneliness. She bit her lip. "Then why did you fight so hard to live?" His eyes locked on hers, searing and unyielding. "I didn't." He took a step closer, his voice dropping. "You did. You pulled me back when I was ready to let go." Her chest tightened. She hated how his words sank into her bones, how they carried a weight that silenced her protests. "Don't twist this," she said, forcing steel into her tone. "I only acted because I couldn't watch another person die in front of me." His gaze sharpened. Another person? The slip burned on her tongue. Her brother's face flashed in her memory. Blue lips, his frail body in her arms, her screams swallowed by the indifference of the world. Maya looked away, but Ethan stepped closer, refusing her retreat. "You've seen death before," he said quietly. "That's why you fought for me, isn't it?" Her throat tightened, but she forced her chin up. "You don't get to pry into my life. You don't own me." That struck something in him. His jaw tensed, his eyes darkened, but instead of anger, there was something more dangerous, desire mixed with defiance. "I don't own you," he said slowly. "But I can't deny this truth." His voice dropped to a husky whisper. "I owe you my life, and I don't take debts lightly." The air between them thickened. His hand lifted, almost involuntarily, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His touch was gentle, but it set her nerves on fire. Maya's breath caught. For one insane second, she didn't pull away. Her heart hammered as if betraying her, caught in the storm of his gaze. Then clarity struck. She jerked back, her voice trembling. "Stop. You think saving you gives you some claim over me? I won't be another one of your possessions, paraded around like a trophy." His face hardened, but hurt flickered beneath the steel. "You think that's what this is? Possession?" "What else could it be?" she shot back. "Men like you don't feel. You control. You buy. You destroy." The accusation hung in the air, cutting deeper than she expected. Ethan turned away, his broad shoulders stiff, his voice low. "Maybe you're right. But the moment you gave me your blood, you chained yourself to me. Whether you accept it or not, Maya, you're already part of my life." Her chest ached, fury and fear colliding. She wanted to scream, to run, but some cruel part of her knew he was right. Saving him had tied their fates together, whether she wanted it or not. And worse, part of her wasn't sure if she wanted to escape. Before she could answer, a phone buzzed on the table. Ethan snatched it up, his expression turning to ice as he read the message. His eyes flicked back to her, shadowed and cold. They know about you. Her blood ran cold. Who? My enemies. His voice was a blade. The moment you saved me, you became their target. The weight of his words crushed the air from her lungs. She wasn't just trapped in his world now, she was a weapon his enemies would use to destroy him. And as Ethan's gaze locked on her, fierce and unyielding, she knew he wasn't asking her permission. He was vowing it. You're not leaving my side again. The first thing Elena noticed when she opened her eyes was the silence. Not the muffled chaos of the hospital, not the frantic footsteps she remembered echoing down sterile halls. Just silence. Her body stiffened against the plush sheets beneath her. She blinked rapidly, taking in the soft golden light of the bedroom. No peeling paint. No street noises. No cold draft from the alley's cracked windows. Instead, there were velvet curtains, an oil painting above the bed, and the faint scent of sandalwood lingering in the air. She wasn't in the shelter anymore. Her chest constricted. Panic clawed up her throat. Where am I? The door opened with a soft click. She froze. Adrian Knight, alive, standing tall, and impossibly more imposing than when she last saw him unconscious, stepped in. His shirt was crisp, his dark suit jacket draped over one arm, but his eyes, those piercing steel-gray eyes, were fixed on her with a weight that made her pulse stumble. "You're awake," he said, his voice low, smooth, but taut with something unspoken. Relief?
Possession?
Control? She couldn't tell. Elena swallowed hard. Why am I here? Adrian's jaw flexed, as though the question was both expected and irritating. He set his jacket down with meticulous precision on the chair, then walked closer until the air between them felt charged. You collapsed after, he hesitated, his eyes narrowing, after saving me. Your body was too weak from the blood loss. My doctor insisted you be transferred here, my private residence. Safer than the hospital. Her lips parted, disbelief prickling. Safer for me, or for you? For a moment, his mask cracked, and she caught the flicker of something raw in his eyes. Both. Elena shifted against the pillows, tugging at the hem of the silk robe someone had dressed her in. The fabric was too soft, too foreign against her skin. A cruel reminder she didn't belong in a place like this. You should have left me at the shelter, she whispered. Adrian's voice hardened instantly. After you gave me your blood? After you dragged me back from death, when every so-called expert failed? No, Elena. You don't get to vanish back into the shadows. Her heart thudded, uneven and wild. He said her name like he had memorized it in silence, like it anchored him. But she wouldn't, be pulled into his world. She had fought too hard for scraps of dignity on the streets. And now, staring at him, this man who owned skyscrapers, who had the world trembling at his command, she felt that dignity slipping away. I didn't save you for this, she bit out. I didn't do it so you could cage me here like some pet project. Adrian's eyes darkened, and his next words were sharp, but beneath them, his voice trembled with something that wasn't anger. It was fear. You think I could just let you disappear? After your blood is literally running through my veins? After every time my heart beats, it beats because of you? The room seemed to shrink around her. Elena's breath caught, her body aching at the intensity of his confession. This wasn't gratitude. It wasn't obligation. It was something deeper, more dangerous. Chains forged from mortality and survival, binding them together whether she wanted it or not. But she shook her head fiercely, willing herself to resist. You don't understand. You've never been powerless. You've never had to beg for warmth, or food, or safety. And now you want to tie my life to yours like I'm just an extension of your empire? Her words landed like blows. For the first time, Adrian faltered, as though she had peeled away his armor. He stepped back, raking a hand through his hair, his composure cracking. You think I don't know what powerlessness feels like? His voice dropped lower, rougher. You think I don't know what it's like to be helpless while your body fails, while every doctor around you writes your death sentence? Elena froze. The torment in his tone was too real to be posturing. Adrian's gaze locked onto hers, burning with a mixture of pain and possession. The moment your blood touched mine, the moment my heart started again, I swore I'd never let you vanish. You saved my life, Elena. Now I owe you everything. And I don't care if you hate me for it. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. His words carved into her, tearing down the last of her defenses, but also terrifying her. Because his devotion wasn't born of love, it was born of desperation, of survival. And yet, wasn't that the same thing that had defined her existence? Silence stretched between them, thick with electricity. Elena finally forced herself to speak, though her voice trembled. I don't want to be your debt. I don't want to be your chain. Adrian's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. It was too sad, too raw. Then, what do you want to be? Her breath caught. The question echoed in her chest like thunder, forcing her to confront the truth she wasn't ready to say. But before she could answer, the door slammed open. Sir, a voice barked. One of Adrian's bodyguards stormed in, his face pale. There's been a breach. Your enemies know the girl's here. Adrian's expression turned to steel. He moved instantly, his body angling in front of Elena's as though he'd shield her with his own life. Over my dead body, he growled. Elena's pulse spiked. For the first time since meeting him, she realized something chilling. Her life wasn't just bound to Adrian's blood anymore. It was bound to his war. The room was too quiet, too sterile. The kind of silence that pressed against the walls and stole the air from her lungs. Amara stood at the window of the hospital suite, arms folded tightly across her chest, as if hugging herself could shield her from the storm brewing inside. Behind her, on the bed, lay Adrian Blackwell, the man whose face she had only ever seen on magazine covers and giant billboards above skyscrapers. The man the world called untouchable. The man who had lived because of her blood. But survival was never free. And tonight, she could feel the price tightening around her like a noose. Why are you still here? Adrian's voice, rasped, fragile, yet still carrying that innate authority, broke the silence. Amara flinched, turning slowly. His eyes were open, sharper now, no longer clouded by the haze of unconsciousness. They pinned her in place, heavy with questions she wasn't ready to answer. I didn't want to leave, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Adrian studied her for a long moment. The beeping of the monitors filled the gap between them, an unrelenting reminder of how close he had come to death. You gave me your blood, he said finally, his tone unreadable. No one else could save me. Not my money. Not my power. Not my doctors.
His jaw tightened. Why?
The truth pressed against her lips, but fear shoved it back down. She didn't want to tell him she'd been living in the shadows, that desperation had forced her into the hospital that night. She didn't want him to know that, for once in her life, she hadn't thought of survival, she had only thought of him. Instead, she lifted her chin, forcing boldness into her trembling frame. Because everyone deserves a chance to live. Even CEOs who think they're gods. For a moment, Adrian's expression softened, almost amused. But then it hardened again, and his voice cut through the fragile air. You risked everything. Do you know what happens now, Amara? Her name on his tongue made her shiver. She hated how it sounded, like a claim. What happens, she asked carefully, is that you get better. You go back to your empire. And I go back to my life. A bitter laugh escaped him. Back to the streets? The word stung, sharper than any knife. She wanted to fire back, to spit venom, to remind him that not everyone was born into silk sheets and gold towers. But the look in his eyes wasn't cruelty. It was something else. Something darker. You think you can just walk away? Adrian leaned forward, wincing but ignoring the pain. I owe you my life, Amara. And men like me, we don't leave debts unpaid. Her heart thudded. She shook her head quickly. I didn't do it for that. I don't want your money. I don't want anything from you. But Adrian's gaze burned into hers, unyielding. Too late. The moment you bled for me, you tied yourself to me. And I don't let go. The finality in his tone made her breath hitch. She could feel the walls closing in, the weight of a future she hadn't asked for tightening around her. Her hands clenched at her sides. "I didn't save you to be caged," she whispered. Adrian's lips curved into something dangerous, half a smile, half a vow. "Then you don't know me yet." The door burst open. A tall man in a tailored suit strode in, his voice urgent. "Mr. Blackwell, we have a problem. The press found out. They know someone outside the family saved you, and they're already digging into who she is." His eyes flicked toward Amara, suspicion flashing. Amara's stomach dropped. The press. Her anonymity, her fragile safety, gone. Adrian didn't even flinch. His eyes never left her. "Then make sure they understand one thing," he said coldly. "She belongs to me." Amara gasped, fury sparking through her veins. "I am not yours." But his words had already sealed her fate. And as the aide rushed out to manage the storm outside, Amara realized the truth. Saving him had saved nothing. It had only bound her to the most dangerous man she had ever met. The man whose life was hers. The man who had just claimed hers in return. The penthouse was silent, too silent for a man who had just cheated death. Rain tapped softly against the glass walls, blurring the city lights beyond. Inside, only the faint hum of the oxygen machine filled the air. Elena sat stiffly on the edge of the velvet sofa, her fingers tangled in her worn sleeves, her heart racing louder than the storm. Across the room, Adrian Blackwell, the once cold, untouchable CEO, was watching her like a man starved. His dark eyes burned with something she couldn't name. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Your family already thinks I'm—" "They can think what they want." Adrian cut her off, his tone low, dangerous, but tinged with something rawer than she had ever heard. "They weren't there when my heart stopped. You were. They didn't save me. You did." Elena's chest tightened. She had told herself 100 times not to get pulled into this, into him. He was a man from a world so high above her own, his life paved with glass towers and iron walls, while hers was made of shadows and hunger. Yet every time he looked at her like this, like she was oxygen, she couldn't breathe. "You don't understand," she said, rising to her feet. "Your family will destroy me. I don't belong here. I don't belong with you." Adrian stood too, wincing as the movement tugged at his healing chest. But his voice was steady, unyielding. "You gave me your blood when I had nothing left. Do you think I can forget that? Do you think I want to forget you?" Her lips trembled. "I didn't do it for you to owe me anything." "You're right," he said, stepping closer, his towering frame casting her in shadow. "I don't owe you. I want you. That's different." The words lodged in her throat like fire. She had seen powerful men before, men who took and used without ever feeling. But Adrian was looking at her as though she was the only thing in this glittering city that was real. And that terrified her more than anything. Her back hit the cool glass wall. Adrian's hand braced beside her head, his breath warm, unsteady, as though being near her cost him more than the heart surgery ever had. "Elena," he whispered, her name breaking on his tongue. "Every night since I opened my eyes, I see you. The girl with nothing, who gave me everything." She tried to speak, tried to shove the lump from her throat, but then his lips crashed onto hers. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't tentative. It was fire meeting storm, raw desperation tangled with forbidden longing. Elena's hands flew to his chest, not to push him away, but because her body betrayed her. Her heart, the one that had learned only to survive, was suddenly alive under his touch. When he finally broke the kiss, his forehead rested against hers. "Tell me you don't feel it too," he breathed. Her chest heaved, eyes wide, wet with unshed tears. I can't." "Can't what?" "Can't lie." For a moment, silence swallowed them both. Then Adrian's hand curled gently around hers, his thumb brushing her callous skin. He was a man used to diamonds and silk, yet he held her as if she was rarer than both. But before she could answer, the sharp sound of heels clicking against marble sliced through the tension. The penthouse door burst open. "Elena," a cold, furious voice rang out. Adrian turned sharply, his body instinctively shielding Elena. At the doorway stood Victoria Blackwell, his half-sister, draped in designer black, her eyes like polished knives. "So it's true," she sneered. "The homeless girl with filthy blood has bewitched you." Elena froze. Her secret, the one she had begged Adrian to protect, was now a weapon in the wrong hands. "Leave," Adrian growled, his voice lethal. "You don't speak to her like that." Victoria's smile curved, cruel. "Oh, brother, you think you're in control? You've handed your heart, your company, and your weakness to her." She stepped closer, her gaze flicking to Elena. "And the world is going to know." Elena's breath caught, the weight of dread settling over her like chains. For the first time, Adrian's protection didn't feel enough. Because Victoria was right. The world outside these glass walls wouldn't see her as a savior. They would see her as prey.